Members of our board of directors, members of our credit union committees, our Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Ilana Duggan, featured speaker, Mr. Gregory Fergusson, Business and Finance Advisor at BYBT, formerly known as the Barbados Youth Business Trust, members of our management team and staff, members of Affinity Plus Credit Union, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this evening's Smart Choices webinar on the topic, Getting Finance for Your Business, Steps for Success. Now, my name is Valerie Hope, and I'm the Marketing Manager of Affinity Plus Credit Union, and it is my privilege today to be your MC for tonight's session. Now, before we get into the presentations for this evening, let me just deal with a little housekeeping. So, you should have recognized that we're recording the session. So let me say that we will share the recording with you, as well as the slides that Mr. Ferguson is going to be using this evening. And also at the end of the session, we just ask that you complete a very brief evaluation form. So we put that form in place because we want to get your feedback after the session. And hopefully you can give us, further guidance in terms of other sessions, one that you might be interested for us to hold in the future, but also to help us evaluate tonight's session so that we can, continue to enhance and build up as we move forward. Also, to minimize disruptions, we're asking you to kindly remain muted during the presentations and to hold your questions to the end unless otherwise engaged by the presenters. And we are going to have a formal question and answer section, so please be assured that all your questions we will try to answer. And in terms of how you want to ask that question, you do have the option to raise your hand, and my colleagues on the call would, invite you to speak. Or if you prefer not to, a little more shy and you prefer maybe to type your questions, feel free to type your questions and comments into the chat box, and our team will track and make sure that we share them with Gregory in the session. So I also encourage you to pay close attention to everything that we share this evening. So listen closely to all the speakers as we have a short quiz at some point of the evening. And one of you lucky people will get a chance to win one of two $50 Affinity Plus Credit Union cash vouchers and a branded gift. So something, a little something to sweeten the deal for you, getting some great and valuable information, as well as, something to take away from Affinity Plus Credit Union. Now, boys, these sessions, because we do open sessions, not just for our members, I always like to share a little bit of information about who we are. So for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with our credit union, Affinity Plus Credit Union is the former BWU Cooperative Credit Union, and we have been in operation since 1983. This year, we're going to be celebrating our 41st anniversary in July. Now, on April 2nd of this year, we actually unveiled our new bold and dynamic brand to market. And now we deem that our new name and visual identity is more distinctive, modern, and better intended to align with our purpose. Currently, we have almost over 31,600 members, and we have over $231 million in assets and growing. So we're actually one of the largest member-owned financial institutions in Barbados. And we currently have 3 convenient branch locations in Bridgetown, Spicetown, and Oistins. If you are not yet a member, we invite you to consider joining our credit union. We do offer a wide array of financial products and services that can add value to your life. So it's now that point of the evening where I get to stay quiet, and I'm going to invite our Chief Operations Officer of Affinity Plus Credit Union, Marie Theodore, and she's going to come and give you a quick introduction to some of these wonderful savings and business loan options that I would have mentioned earlier. Now, Marie has been a professional in the financial services sector for over 15 years. She has a wealth of experience in managing various investment portfolios, foreign exchange trading, merchant banking services, retail and commercial credit, as well as implementation of card products. In her role as Chief Operation Officer for Affinity Plus Credit Union, she oversees all aspects of our branch operations, loans, and member services. Over to you, Marie.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for your introduction, Valerie. And I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I am glad that we are doing this members forum. As the operations manager as your chief operations officer, the loan sits within the operations department. And we get a number of persons who do come to us to apply for loans. So I'm very thankful that Mr. Gregory Fergusson has given up his time to come and educate our members and potential members, and how to prepare yourself in the event that you want to get financing, and also to how to manage your finances when you own a small business and when you're self-employed. Now, as a credit union, before I go into products and services, I just want to make sure that we debunk the myth that it's hard to get a loan from the credit union. I've heard people say so a lot. This is a myth. This is not true. But at the end of the day, we want you to help us help you. So there's some information which I know that Mr. Fergusson is gonna, talk about later on, but some basic information that you need in order to get financing from us. It is totally untrue that we do not want to help the small man, so to speak. We are always, always, always willing to make sure that you go through your financial journey with us. Whether or not you're fully self-employed or you have a job, but you are using it, you are just doing a side hustle for additional income, we want to make sure that we cater to all your needs. We always ensure that we encourage people to be entrepreneurs. We always make sure that that gives you a level of confidence and a level of freedom, that you're not tied to a job, that you could always fall back on something. So there are some basic things you need when you come to apply to us for a loan. If you're self-employed, it's good practice for you to make sure you register your business. So you need your business registration documents. You need your ID and proof of address for the business owners. We need bank statements, at least for the last year, because we want to make sure that we see those numbers go through the bank. Because sometimes some people, they bring bank statements to us, and then they bring the financial statements and they're the profit and loss, and the numbers don't match. It is not making any sense. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you bring in your financial statements. It could be profit and loss and cash flow for the small businesses. If you have a lot of assets and stuff and liabilities, we require a balance sheet. But the main thing we want to see really is your P&L, your cash flow, and your bank statements. We want to see a business plan, especially if for example, let's say you own a plumbing business and you want to expand that business, and you say, well, I would like to get, an additional $40,000, to buy equipment. We want to make sure that you come to us with a solid plan. For example, the plan will say, not too elaborate, just say, give us the company background, the history, your competitors or your position in the industry, your future plans, etc. If you are self-employed, of course, you could use your salary once your debt service ratio is within the guidelines, but you should still get into the habit of separating personal from business. Eventually, let the business eventually handle its expenses, and even pay yourself a salary if possible, which is best practice. Please remember to keep records, document, make sure you register your time. You get your TAMIS number, your VAT number. Always do it right the first time. An opportunity may arise where you cannot get a contract because you do not have a TAMIS or VAT number. So don't let that don't escape to that. Don't let that stop you from getting a contract. So ladies and gentlemen, please do your part so that we could help you. We have a number of products that we offer. We have the micro business loans. We have business loans. You could always reach out to us for more information or email us. All our information, Valerie at the end would give you the information to contact us. We also know that as an entrepreneur, we are not going to always encourage you to borrow, but we want you to save also. So this is where our savings products will come in. We have the smart accumulator, the minimum is $2,500. As you put in more money, you get more interest over the years. Smart builders, same thing. It starts at $500. As you put in more money, the interest rate goes up. And then we have the fixed deposit, term deposit products. The longer you leave it, the more interest you get. We have the Smart Living Retirement Plan. Let's say you want to save $50,000 by 50, we will let you know how much you can invest now in order to reach that goal. We also have the Smart Entrepreneur Savings. So all of those products, feel free to reach out to us. We will give you more information. Feel free to revisit our social media, our website, or call us. And at the end, Valerie will give you the information you need to reach out to us. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this session.
Thank you very much, Maria. You're absolutely correct. I will share how you can connect with all of us, and also invite Gregory to share how you can connect with the BYBT. And let me just say that, the Affinity Plus Credit Union has actually signed on to a formal agreement with the Barbados Youth and Business Trust. So we are working in partnership. They deal with, I guess, helping businesses, and Gregory will share some information about this when I formally introduce him, so that you can learn more about their products and services. And the idea is that we can work together. So we have an organization that helps businesses set up to be their most successful, and we have a credit union that provides financing. And if you work together, then we can certainly, if you're a member of the credit union, we can happily refer you to the BYBT, so that their team can help you put these systems and structures in your business to make you finance ready, and then they'll pass you back to us with hopefully all your information detailed in the way that it should, as Marie outlined, so that we can just continue to happily say yes and thank you for being a member of the credit union, and here is your financing to help you innovate, automate, or make your business grow. So just in terms of a little lead up in terms of introducing Gregory, just thought I'd just share some context in terms of the importance of small and medium businesses. But so when I did my little research, I realized that according to the World Bank, small and medium enterprises play a major role in most economies, and particularly in developing countries like Barbados. So as a credit union, as Marie said, we really truly understand that finance is a key component to help our micro, small, and medium businesses to grow. And unfortunately, it is the second most cited obstacle that faces or companies or businesses of that size to help them grow their business. So in fact, recently our Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Motley, she recently urged the local banking sector to find more ways to finance small and medium-sized companies. So, to reiterate what Marie would have said, the Affinity Plus Credit Union, we are happy to work with micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, and we are happy to help provide financing that can help you grow and prosper. What we do find, as Marie said, though, is sometimes or many times persons who are looking to source a loan for their business really don't have enough verifiable information about that business so that our team can understand your business plan. Our team can analyze your current and future financial projections because, in order to be a good loan candidate, we actually have to determine that you're able to service the loan and pay it back. And therefore, when we kind of started doing an analysis of people actually coming to us, that's how we determined that we needed to form a partnership with persons like the BYBT, so that we are, and that represents how truly vested we are as a finance company to really significantly improve the approval rates for small business loan applications. And tonight's session is really just part of that strategy, so that we can work together to arm entrepreneurs with more information and provide access to resources to help you succeed with sourcing financing. So ladies and gentlemen, with all that now said, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our featured speaker for tonight, Mr. Gregory Fergusson. Gregory is a business and finance advisor at BYBT. And as I said, they were formerly known as the Barbados Youth Business Trust. And they also recently rebranded. And so the old name suggested that they only focused on youth. And again, I'm going to invite Gregory to share more information about themselves. But now they are opening up their services to a wider group of budding entrepreneurs just eager to get started in business. Gregory has a degree in banking and finance, and he has a passion for talent development, which focuses on honing an individual's gifts to become successful. He believes that talents, whether known or untapped, can be developed to create new businesses and hence provide meaningful contribution within society. So discussions on personal development, education, and helping people succeed Our topics are his particular passions, since they're so critical to persons' well-being. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Gregory Fergusson. Gregory, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I feel a bit nervous with all that lauding and so on. Anyhow, right. So as Valerie would have pointed out, I am the business advisor at the BYBT. And what our organization does is that we help persons get started in business, and that's a short version of it. Right? Today's session is getting financing for your small business, steps to success. One of the books that would have driven me in terms of entrepreneurship is a book entitled The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And so one of the quotes that came out to me was that you have to seek first to understand and then to be understood. And for entrepreneurship, patience is a very big virtue, especially when you're not sure what is going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year, and things could go south or north depending on how the environment runs. So with that, that's the brief introduction. Today, what we're going to look at is that we're going to look at some stuff about entrepreneurs. And when I say entrepreneurs, generally what makes an entrepreneur good or bad. In some cases, by default, if you know what is good, you will tend to understand what is bad. We look at different versions of financing. We look at some business planning ideas, wine loans. We look at your credit. What's about that? What's that? The challenges. The Affinity Plus would have mentioned some of the challenges and people mentioning that it's difficult to get loans. It all depends. If you don't have any money, chances are, that's the challenge for small businesses. And then the facts are that some people have a loan phobia, as they call it. What are the documents required? And then we look at some of the brands that entrepreneurs would have created over the years. And after that, you can have a little bit of a question and answer session about anything that you don't understand or you need to know. All right. So the BYBT, we rebranded a little while ago. This year was our official launch. We are in existence in excess of 25 years. What is interesting about the BYBT brand is that a group of persons, entrepreneurial in their own venture, decided to start this business in order to solve the problem of things like unemployment and insufficient assistance for persons who want to start a business but isn't quite sure. You know, everybody don't have a nice family who can say, well, look, this is how you start a business. And we are that family for many of those persons. Our mission to provide underserved youth it was youth, but young people with dynamic programs focusing on business mentoring, startup loans, entrepreneurial skills, and development. So once upon a time, we offered loans. We've taken a break from that because it is very difficult. The honest truth is that sometimes the entrepreneurs would pay back, sometimes they will not. And there's a risk always in offering loans. It is not necessarily that they're bad people, but sometimes they take risks, and with risk, there's always the chance that it goes one way or the other. Our vision generally is to ensure that we have globally recognized best practice for youth entrepreneurship development. And so that, as I joined the organization, it connected with my passion, where I believe that persons at least have one talent. And those who are Christian-minded enough will remember that the Bible does say at least one talent you're given, right? So that is also one of the things that I would have grown to understand and appreciate. So what do we offer now? We offer training and workshops in terms of the entrepreneurship. What the difference between what we try to offer in terms of training and workshops is that we don't want it to be an academic exercise. Many presentations that I've created and many interactions that I've had, the hardest thing to do is to ensure that it does not feel like an academic exercise. It is a very practical thing you're going to engage in when you're starting a business. You're not in a classroom. Your classroom is the globe, and everything about it is mirrors the classroom, except that you're not in a building. All right. So we try not to do something very academic, and we try our best as much as possible not to be that well, let's call it boring. We offer business mentoring as well. So persons who would need assistance, they're professionals around the country, sometimes outside of the country, who would be experts in various fields of business, and they lend their assistance voluntarily to give you guidance in terms of how to do different things within the business. I'm the business advisor, so I handle a lot of the business support elements. And so we meet with persons, discuss their ideas, we discuss probably their business, any challenges they may have, and we work out things that might be able to assist them in being successful. Then we try to, as much as possible, to present something of a networking opportunity for entrepreneurs. It's not very easy to find people that think like you when you want to start a business. It's not like finding a job. You can ask persons who you know, this and different things like that. But in business, you tend to have to work much of the time alone. And so we try to offer that opportunity where you can mingle with persons who have similar challenges, persons that might help you get a little bit of an easier break here or there. And that networking opportunity is something that we try to offer. All right. Now, entrepreneurship generally, as most persons will be familiar, feels as though it is a buy and sell operation. And that is largely one of the more popular elements of business. But there are different types of entrepreneurs, and we try to help all types. For us at BYBT, we are what you would call a social enterprise. We don't do it for profit. We are a charity, we're an NGO, and therefore the challenge is that our aim is not simply to earn profit, but to have successful businesses created. So there's the small business type of entrepreneurship, there are large companies, there are scalable startups, and there's a difference between scalable startups and some that are not so scalable. For instance, if you start a business whereby most businesses are scalable, but if you start a business that is a local business that, let's say you're doing plumbing, you're not going to look to necessarily have a large plumbing firm across the world. That's not necessarily most persons' vision. So that's a slight difference. As I said, there's a social entrepreneur, there's the innovative entrepreneur, persons that would have created things that, hey, I didn't think about that. Once upon a time, there's a video describing how you peel a coconut, and that is an innovative technique used by an entrepreneur who would have sell that product for persons. There's the hustler type, those persons that just keep going and they earn customers very quickly. They're not too interested in keeping them. They just keep going. Then there's the imitator. The imitator is sort of like those persons who reverse engineer a lot of businesses. And there's nothing really wrong with it. Fast food chains are typically like that. Most persons would replicate or copy what they're seeing persons offer: fish and chips, chicken and chips, those types of fast food ventures. There's a researcher. Now, the researcher is interesting because it's very difficult to build a business on research, because who wants it is often the hardest challenge. But people do want it. It's just that are they willing to pay for it? And then there's the buyer. You buy and you sell. That's sort of like the simple approach, where you buy a bucket of molasses and you bottle it and you sell it off at small thing and you make a little profit, similar to different things like that, right? So those are the different types of entrepreneurs. There are probably others that you can think of, but those are the ones that we will highlight today. Now, entrepreneurs are special people, and unique in a sense because they have to acquire certain traits in order to be successful. One, it is hard work. So you need to be determined. You can't sit down and say, well, it's somebody's fault. No, you gotta push through because there's no excuse that will be made for you. You're not gonna be able to send a letter to the school and say, well, I can't make it today, so I'm not gonna be an entrepreneur. You have to develop that passion, that determination. A good word would be discipline that will help you in the hard times as well as the good times, because enjoying the good times too much sometimes leads to hardship. How do you feel about taking chances? Many persons, especially in Barbados, you would hear, are risk averse. They don't, first of all, they don't like loans at all because they don't want to owe anybody. Then there's the optimist or a pessimist. What do those big words mean? You're either positive or you're negative. Man, that ain't gonna work, that ain't gonna work, that ain't gonna work. That's the pessimist. That's the pessimist. You're doing foolishness. You're wasting your time. That's the pessimist. The optimist is, yeah, that's worth a try. I think it could work. I could see how it might work. That kind of an attitude. So the difference between the two, one will try stuff, the other one will find ways to make sure it cannot work. Did curiosity really kill the cat? What is the cat? Your curiosity helps you to learn. And so I asked the question because the entrepreneur that is successful asks a lot of questions, whether it is to themselves or to you or to whoever they come across in general. They go to the library, they surf the internet, they're always looking for things because just like the cat, but what is the cat? That's a question for you all to determine in terms of what really got killed. Do you love solving problems? There are several problems in society. Do we complain about them or do we solve them? How confident are you? A large part of the problem in society is that there are a lot of people who lack confidence. And confidence is not something somebody can give you. Confidence is something that comes from you working on yourself. I have a general saying very often is, well, you got to work on yourself because very often we make too many excuses in terms of what has gone wrong, whose fault it is, this and that and the next. But you got to establish that sense of learning where it is important for you to work on yourself in your free time and different things like that. It is easy to, is it easy for you to adapt to change? Are you persistent? We go back to that word that relates to determine. How consistent are you? One of these things in sports that a couple of guys and us we'll discuss, one of the talents that many people have is availability. You understand? Your absence regular hampers your ability to succeed sometimes. And therefore, your ability to be consistent and available and present is something that allows you to be successful more often than not. Right? So those are some of the traits that I have discovered over the time that are good for you to be a successful entrepreneur. Then there's the technical sides. What allows you to, you just can't be passionate. Those are the things, those sound sweet, talk is cheap. So we go into the technical sides of being a successful entrepreneur. Business planning. It was said early on by the CEO and Valerie and so on, that business planning is important. Very often, I can tell as a business advisor when someone has never, ever done or attempted a business plan. Now, don't get me wrong, you can start a business without a business plan. But can anyone tell me, how do you know when the plan, when a business has exhibited signs of not having a business plan? I can tell you. Similar to if you were a student. How can you tell a student that is a bad student? How can you tell a worker that is a bad worker? Oftentimes, it is a lack of planning. You always hear the term of you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that is one of the things that comes about. Now, as I said, you can start a business without a business plan, but when the road gets rough, you literally have to start over again and deal with it much harder. It is like an athlete that eats poorly. When things get tough and the weight start to pile on and so on, the conditioning is poor. So you have the business plan, there's a marketing plan, there's something called a business model canvas that persons generally have not heard of. You could, and after you've done those things, it helps you to understand where, when you register your business, and most persons should be aware, if you're starting a business, there's a place in Warrens called Corporate Affairs where you can register your business. Be very particular with spending. Don't be afraid to be cheap. Don't mind people and say, well, why are you cheap? You're spending your money. Be mindful and strategic about how you spend your money. I'm not saying don't buy what you need, but be mindful of how you spend your money. Learn to earn. I like that term because it rhymes. I like rhyming sometimes. So educate yourself continuously on how to be a better business person. Right? It doesn't hurt for you to try to read a book once a month. If you can read a little faster. I'm not a great reader. I like to acquire knowledge, but books are quite boring sometimes. But I like to acquire knowledge. So I seek out books that are very good in terms of personal development, in terms of business, business model. I like all of those things because it's part of my passion as well as my job. Form your team. Now, forming a team is very difficult, and I've acquired a great appreciation for those people who have managed to have a lot of people around them. I can't get that done so easily. But it is important. Now, in business, it is even more important because small business owners tend to get the wrong people around them. Because you're my friend doesn't mean that I should go into business with you. I need an accountant. I don't need somebody to cheer me up. You understand? So build your team strategically. You've all gone to some school or the other. You know people that are, so you have to change your attitude a bit. So because we have a lot of adversity in our culture whereby we behave as though, look, I don't need certain people around. But in business, you do. And you can't get them vexed neither. If you get them vexed, it's gone, and your account's gone, and you got to figure out how to get these taxes filed. So generally build your team strategically. That would help you and help them too, because in the same book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you try to aim for a win-win situation. Help the other person, and they help you. You have some form of mutual benefits operating, and then take care of you, mind, body, and soul. Don't always plug away 24 hours a day, because 8 hours must be used for some form of rest, and therefore the body is able to replenish itself and come back strong and healthy. All right, so those are 2 elements of that. Some of the entrepreneurs around the world that many people might be familiar with, you can see in this list here. And I use this twice for you to be aware that it can be you, and 2, that all the persons on this list would have taken loans. All of them. Now, loans is a funny thing. A lot of people in our culture don't like to take loans, and I'm not sure why. I understand, but I'm not sure why. But you got these guys here, you can research them and see what they do. Some of them are more popular than others. Some of them are local. And you look at that list as I share these slides later on. All right. Now we get into a bit more the technical sides. There are several types of financing. Most people are familiar with the word loans, but generally in the bank, it is called financing. The first one is bootstrapping. Savings is very important. And the CEO of Affinity would have pointed out that we're not just looking to lend money, but we're looking to save money as well. So your track record of savings allows you, when the time comes, you never know what you're going to need it for. But in this case, it could be to start a business. So you, instead of spending $5 for lunch every day from primary school to secondary school to college to university or whatever, you can probably say, well, look, let me cut that, take a little sandwich, go to school, and they get $2. By the time you finish school, 21 years later or so, you have enough money to at least try a little bit of a small business. So bootstrapping is important. Some people can afford more. You may get $50 a day, so you might be able to buy the whole car when you finish school and start a business like that, right? Or a truck if it's a delivery system. So bootstrapping is using your own money to start your business. Small business loans, we would have pointed out that we had a little bit of an agreement with the Affinity Plus. There is also Fund Access, and the Barbados Trust loans. They are developmental agencies that lend money different to banks. We all know the banks generally and the other credit unions around the place. You just need to inquire about their small business loan facilities. Fund Access, that's basically their whole job. That's what the operation is set up for, lending loans, and they lend, I think, up to 120 or 130,000. Barbados Trust loans, they lend up to 5,000 at a time. There's various organizations that do online loans. I'm familiar with Carry Lend at least, and there are others that might do something similar. Then there's business credit cards. Now, a lot of people don't like credit cards, but that's usually because they don't pay off the bill before the month ends. But a credit card is a 30-day loan, basically. And when I say 30-day, don't take me to straight 30. Make sure that you pay it before the due date. So that if say, for instance, you need something on the 1st of January, you swipe your credit card. You need it on the 10th of January, you swipe your credit card. You don't got to pay immediately, but make sure you pay when the due date comes, and that's a form of a loan as well. There's also invoice financing. This is not something that is readily spoken about, but a lot of people do it. I buy something from you. You like, let's say, for instance, some supermarkets, they may pay in 2 weeks or in a month's time. In that time, what you can do is say, well, look, you owe me money, and I'm gonna take some off of that based on the amount that you owe me. So that's a form of loans as well, because you're short of cash, but you need something immediately. So that's another way, but you gotta find an agreement between the organization and yourself. Equipment financing. I think many people will be familiar with places like courts and those institutions that offer hire purchase and what's not, whereby you can take out the fridge or stove or whatever and pay it over a space of 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever terms that you agree on. So that's equipment financing. Then there's lines of credit. This one is not very popular. I don't really promote this one because it's very risky, even more so than credit cards, but it is there. And so you can inquire at your credit union or the bank about that one. Then there's angel investors, but we don't dream about that because that's the sugar daddy, sugar mommy system. And we be thankful, but it is not something that happens very regularly. However, in order to attract angel investors come with a condition. They want to earn money on their investment. So your requirement is even more stringent than the bank. They want to know how much money you're going to make over the next 6 months, a year, because they're not here to help you, basically. They're there to make money on the money that they already have. And so it's basically a coincidence of needs, and therefore you can say, well, all right, I'm going to put together this is how much money I'm going to make, and they'll pay you back, and they will make an extra $1. It's sort of like a loan, but they make an extra $1 on the money that they gave you for the time that you need, right? Sometimes they might take a stake in the business if you can't afford to pay back or something of that sort, and that's okay as well. Popularly, Automotive Arts would have told a story about that. They started with one outlet, and now they're throughout the Caribbean with that same kind of investing opportunity. There's a crowdfunding. I know I like to share the story. When I went to school, there's this guy, let's call him John. He would have practiced a form of crowdfunding, whereby every day or every week, he would collect money from persons around the classroom, school, to go and pay the instructor to learn to drive. So he did a form of crowdfunding back when technology was not the greatest part. And so I always laugh at when they say crowdfunding, because crowdfunding for a poor person is basically going around the neighborhood and collecting money from people and using it wisely. Using it wisely. Somewhat of a crowdfunding is sort of like meeting terms if used that way, but most people don't use it that way. They just call it savings. It's not really savings, but it is a feature of our culture sometimes. Then there's the venture capitalists. We can look at that. They would come and finance big projects and so on. You bring your idea and they do something similar to angel investors, but they're not quite exactly the same. Then there's small business grants. Now you got to do a lot of research for that. I don't like the free money system, but it is there, and from time to time, various organizations would invest in the community by offering grants to incentivize projects around the island or the globe or whatever. So for instance, if we want to advance females and so on, empowerment and so on, we offer grants for various businesses that they would be interested in. So grants would be interesting as well. Family and friends, if you were from poor, rich, medium, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can always go and ask persons for a little help and assistance depending on how much they're willing to give. And then consider strategic partnerships. You've gone to school, you've gone to work, you socialize enough that you should be able to say, well, look, you got more money than me. I ain't looking at your pocket. I don't like pocket watching, but I have a business idea and I honestly can do with a little assistance. All you need to do, you get a share of the business. Sometimes it might be skill. You might have the money and they may be able to cook, and you have a space that can start a restaurant. So those things are strategic partnerships whereby it is a form of financing, because otherwise you would have had to pay that person to work, right? So that's why you call it a form of financing. So those are the different types of financing that will be particularly interesting for persons trying to start a business. Now, we put together the business plan. Persons tend to overlook the business plan. Is hard. Let me put it that way. And that's why persons like me, myself, and others are in the market. Business plans can cost a lot of money. What we tend to do is that we use a different approach at BYBT, whereby we guide you in developing the business plan. Not all businesses need a detailed expert, all the figures correct, and not correct, to be exact and so on. Some businesses can start with estimates and what's not, and so we guide you through the process of creating a business plan, as opposed to do it for you and then send you away with you trying to figure out what this business is about. All right, so there are different sections to consider, but in getting a loan, it is very important that you have your business plan organized. It is for your benefit mostly, but it is also for the insight of the bank or institution to understand what it is that you are doing and how capable you are of paying back the loan. So there's the executive summary. This explains what the business generally is, the company, how the company is formed and so on. What are your products and services? Market analysis. And it is a frustrating thing sometimes for me, because when you ask persons to do a market analysis, you explain to them what a market analysis is. You say, well, look, go and find 5 competitors for me. And they say, well, I'm the only body that do it in the country. And I get a headache, because that's never the case. I mean, absolutely never the case. Trust and believe that you have not created anything new. You probably are few. For instance, let's say what I don't know. Let's use Microsoft for example. Microsoft was not the only computer company at the time, and since then there are millions of computer companies there. So starting a company, don't believe that you are not going to do a market analysis by saying there are no competitors. There's the competitors, how large the market is, because the bank needs to be aware of how much potential it is for you to earn a profit. And you need to be aware of it too. Because if I send you and say, well, look, go and see if you can find 100 potential customers and you can only find 5, we know that you can't live off of 5 customers. And chances are only 2 will come to you. So you got to be realistic when you're getting into business. Analysis of strengths and weaknesses. The O and the T stands for opportunities and threats. So we want to know an entire analysis of what is going on from your side, as well as what is available in the market. So the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and I missed one. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Yes. What threats are available? Marketing and sales strategy. Everybody can start a business. You can have 5 farmers, for example, starting the same pig business, but you can decide to market differently. You can decide to sell differently. You can sell overseas, export. You can do different things with the same pig farming that you can do, and that sets you apart in terms of that. In the next slide, excuse me. In the next slide, we'll highlight something called business model, which will highlight what the difference is in terms of sales strategy. And then there's the financial analysis. Very important, your projections as well as your current state. If you're in business already, you want to know how the business is functioning. Is it making a profit? Is it making a loss? Why do you need the loan at all? If it's a potential good business, how will this money help you? And so that is the few of a brief synopsis of how a business plan runs. And then there's this thing. I put a picture so that you can get it because it is very visual. Business models allow you to understand how the business runs with each other. You want to know, why do I use email for the business as opposed to telephone? Why do I use Instagram as opposed to Facebook? Why do I use delivery as opposed to direct sales, open a store, different things like that. So the business model allows you to pick out and itemize how each channel best works with one another. So obviously you don't do the same marketing a lawyer does if you have a sports academy, because the lawyer can advertise on the radio, but you can. So different things like that will come into play. And the same thing happens with something in relation to schools, as opposed to, let's say, you want to form a dentist practice, for example. All right, so that is what I would suggest you always, when you're not familiar with these things, seek out an advisor. Even if you may know somebody that you may not have to come to me, but you can go to someone that you think is knowledgeable, and they will guide you accordingly. All right, so that's a business model canvas. Figure out why you want the money. One of the things that hampered our loan portfolio is that they did the business plan, they did the business model canvas, they gave you all the invoices, they gave you the bank statements, they gave everything like that, but that's paperwork. And so when you get the money and you go home and you put up the wood and you buy the equipment and so on, you still have to determine what are you going to use it for. It is beneficial to transparently, you know that word transparent, a lot of people don't like transparency, but it is beneficial to transparently describe the purpose for the loan. If you have challenges in terms of replenishing stock, tell the loan officer, well, look, I need a loan to replenish stock. Why? You may get rejected, and it might be for the best, because if you borrow money, you will end up having to owe twice the amount of money that you would have borrowed. 1, because you're still losing money on the stock, and 2, because you actually borrowed money to do it. Sometimes it might be a simple case of your price is too low, and all you needed to do is increase your price. Say, for instance, you're running a bar. There's absolutely no reason why you should lose money on alcohol, right? Because you buy the alcohol for $2 and you're selling it for $10. How can you be losing money? It means that money is going somewhere else, and therefore you got to do a different assessment of what. And that is the reason why the transparency is very important. How much do you plan to borrow? Don't come and say, well, I need $10,000 because your bank account missing $10,000. Check and see how much you need to borrow. Sometimes you might only need $5,000 because the stock that you purchase will earn you 20,000 and you good, clear and gone. So make sure you ensure, and that's the reason for the business plan as well as the financials. How the proceeds will be used to grow or sustain the business. So this is different now, whereby you may need the money for a reason, but how is it going to be used? Explain to me, well, I need an extra chicken coop because I plan to put an extra 200 chickens, layers or broilers, and I would like to, the carpenter said, well, it can cost me X amount of money. This is how I will use it, which is slightly different for the purpose, whereby you will say how you use it, because how you use it is to build the chicken coops. The purpose for it is to expand the business. So you see a difference in the word in there that you might be a little tricky there. Maybe you want to increase sales and marketing efforts. So you realize, look, my customer base is dropping. So let me see if I can do some marketing, increase sales, do some driving around, see who else needs my product, something of that sort. And it can take a bit of effort there. And so let me borrow $1,000, let me drive around the whole island, tell people, look, I'm a plumber and I could help you with this and that and the next, because people may not be aware of you at all. Update products and technology. Computers generally last 3 to 4 years, and you realize, oh shoot, I spend all my money and I need a quick loan to buy a computer because we can't work without a computer. Maybe it's equipment, the printer went bam, and the guys need the shirts for the sports team next week. All right, so these kind of things might come into play. Sometimes a new technology may come up, and that is important for you not to lose money by missing this opportunity. Expanding the company is another reason for borrowing money. Buying inventory and equipment generally. Capital investment. Sometimes you might want to say, well, look, a building there, the person's just move out. Let me go and see if I can borrow some money and buy that building altogether, do repairs, and I expand the company that way. And then there's hiring additional staff. So sometimes you might say, well, look, I can't do all this myself. I can make a lot of money if I hire 2 more staff members. So let me just borrow this money and I'll pay them back over time. So those are the things that will come about as you look at loans and so on. Now, credit is a very interesting one. I usually like to, internet is a funny place. I usually like to have this conversation with persons about credit. You have your friends. Entrepreneurs get upset about their ability to secure a loan without paying attention to the credit. I ain't lending certain friends of mine, good friends, but I ain't lending all of them money because there's a good chance they ain't giving me back. And the bank is the same way. The same credit union. In fact, the credit union bank is even better because, look, they're lending people your money, You all realize this. They're lending people your money. And so you should appreciate the fact that they're not loosely just saying, well, look, come, borrow this money. Because invariably, those who are old enough, you would be familiar with places like Clico, whereby you run out of cash. Right? You run out of cash. And so when you got this thing called credit, and in the banking, the financial sector, you call it the 4 C's of credit. There's a 5th one that you'll see at the bottom, but generally you call it the 4 C's of credit. 1, the capacity. And this capacity is simply your ability to pay back a loan. What does that mean? Are you able to pay it back? Generally, do you make enough money to pay it back? Do you lend the man that is homeless at the side of the road begging you $10,000 and you expect him to pay it back? No. Do you expect the teacher to pay you back $5 million? No. So when you say that a rich person borrows money easier than a poor person, it's only obvious. It's only obvious because I can sell the rich person's car, or I can sell their house, or I can get my assets in some form or the other from them. But a poor person, unfortunately, there ain't much you can do other than to get a smaller loan or say, well, sorry, try a different approach. And sometimes we damage our own credit too. Because do you have any equity to put towards the loan? Equity meaning that you have a house, it is valued at, I bought it for $10,000. It is now valued $30,000. I can borrow against that. Because the equity is that $20,000 that the asset that you have improved on. That's why people generally say that you don't invest in a car. The car is an asset, yes, you can sell it back, yes, but it is not necessarily an investment unless you use it to do things like delivery or make money off of it. I hope people understand that one. Then there's collateral. Most persons, as whoever pointed out, from the time you start to get over $5,000, the institutions will tend to ask you for collateral, things that you can put up in case you're unable to pay. So that's the 3 C's so far. And then the most important one is your character. Character don't take much to develop. All you have to do is say, well, I want to borrow $20 till next week, and next week you make sure you pay the person. Don't let the person have to come and find you. Don't let them have to come and find you at all. Don't let make it awkward. Sir, I know it's only $20, but you can give me back my $20 though. That's bad character. You got a phone and you telephone, you don't pay any phone bill and different things like that. There, those are things that establishes bad character in terms of loan and credit. And then the fifth one that is not really part of the 4 C's, but it is still part of something that the institutions will consider, is the conditions. So I'm not going to lend somebody for money that just lost a job during COVID, because chances are they can get back a job soon. And therefore, you got to consider the external conditions surrounding you to consider should I lend them this money, especially knowing that the environment is this rough. So you would tend to people tend to look at how the loan market is working to determine if the economy is working well. So if you find that people are lending a lot of money, that means people got a lot of confidence in the market and they know, well, look, you can get back this money easily. All right, because anybody can get a job, everybody can get money, different things like that. So those are the 4 C's of credit, yes. And the fifth one being conditions. Conditions you can't do anything about, so you don't really add it to make it 5 C's. So, but it's still there to consider, and it's something for you to consider, whereby if you know that conditions are poor, chances are you yourself should probably not attempt going for a loan unless you have money on the mattress where you can say, well, look, I can just pay it back with that money I had saved under there. All right. So those are the 4 C's of credit. So don't complain generally when people say, well, I can't get a loan. Chances are one of those 4 C's or multiple of those C's are one of the reasons why you're not able to secure a loan. So we got my little piggy bank picture here. Now, some of the challenges with loans. Small businesses tend to experience difficulties in earning approval for business loans and credit for many reasons. We got the 4 C's that we mentioned, but then there are others that might come up. Some of them might include the length of time the business has been open. So if you only opened 6 months ago and you need a loan, we got to do some investigation of what is going on. Because you just opened and you need a loan. Why you didn't take the loan at the beginning? Why 6 months later? What are you doing that is not right? And remember, I said some people start businesses without a business plan. That might be one. Therefore, I said, well, look, nah, I can't give you the loan right now. Go and do a business plan and go down by BYBT, and they'll help you set up a business plan and stuff, and you can come back with the financials. All right? Entrepreneurs have not separated their business and personal accounts. It's amazing sometimes that entrepreneurs do not even have a bank account. I recognize my privilege at that point where my father, I had a lot of money, but he carried me and tell me, well, look, he put you on the bank, $200, $100, whatever it is, the minimum that they had. And he put a bit of dollars there and so on. You got a bank account. It's important that as a young person that you have a bank account before you get 16, 18, and so on. it makes sense trying to figure it out afterwards, because especially now, people asking you for proof of address, this, that, and the next. You would have solved all them problems because you would have gone with your parents and you got your bank account. And many organizations, I'm sure, Affinity Plus has a youth arm to it. So ensure that you help your children, help your cousins, your siblings, yourself, as well as anybody else. Ensure that you set up a bank account and do regular savings in that way. So that's one. And then for some strange reason, well, it's not strange because it's very common actually. Small businesses tend to mix their personal accounts with the business account. And oftentimes the reason for separating it is that you try to avoid creating confusion. Because when you now go to ask for a loan, who do you give the loan to? Exactly. Do you give the loan as a personal loan or a business loan? Because the bank can't tell the difference. In fact, you can't tell the difference, and therefore the bank or credit union can't tell the difference. And it creates confusion because we don't even know who have access to those accounts. And so we don't know, well, how we can get back this money then. Because the primary thing is that we need to get back the money, because don't forget, I am lending other people money. So please, when you try to start a bank, a business, ensure that you go and start another account. Initially, there are several accounts that don't come with charges. I would say, look, start a separate personal account, because some business accounts come with a lot of charges that you may not be able to afford. Or you speak to the credit union and say, well, look, I want to start a business. How do I set up an account that is separate from my personal savings account? And they would advise you. There are many loan account officers and so on that will guide you accordingly. Then the next thing is, the business does not have structured financial statements to let anybody know what's going on. Remember, the CEO of Affinity Plus said, we need to find out these statements, the balance sheet, profit and loss, different things like that. And it's not hard. You live in 2024, whereby you pick up a phone, you download an app, and you say, well, I bought sweeties to put on the front stand. I bought cheese. I bought this. I pay the man to clean outside. All these things go in the app. And the app you go in the app and you press profit and loss, or well, I got a laptop. Let me make sure how much you pay for that laptop. I paid $1,200 for the laptop. I put that in, boom, 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 boom. All the assets and everything that relate to, or John down the road owe me some money, so I make sure I record that. And you put all these things in your app. And when the end of the month come, you generate a statement and you have all that is needed. It's not difficult. There's QuickBooks, there's free apps, there are different things. All you need to do is make a record, at least make a record writing it down, the very least. That way somebody will be able to say, well, the accountant will be able to say, well, all right, you didn't do bad. At least you kept a record. So let me help you create these statements. But if you don't do this at all, the bank can't really guarantee that you're gonna be able to pay back this money, because you don't even keep record of your own money. So how we can help you? You understand? So keep a structured approach to bookkeeping, financial statements, and so on. It helps people to understand what you're doing. It also is important because you may want to sell the business and you don't know what it's worth. It might be worth $1 million. It might be worth $10. You don't know. So these things are important for you to secure loans as well. And then there's no structured plan which details the objective, strategy. In other words, you don't got a business plan at all. You don't even say, well, I plan to buy $10,000 in stock. There's nothing. You just going by the week. You know, like cricket World Cup coming up, they might got tourists. Let me buy $100,000 in products, and you vex because nobody the stands empty. Nobody. These are things that you gotta plan for and investigate, research, and so on. So the structured plan is necessary, and it really hinders people in terms of getting loans, because in terms of simple terms, it is like a child that doesn't make up the bed, wash the dishes, and clean the clothes, because that child is usually going to be a bad student, and therefore I can't trust them with no schoolwork. So in the same way, I can't trust this business person with any money because they might not make the money next week and it ain't gonna bother them. That's the other part about it. It ain't gonna bother them because they know, and so on, right? So work on your business like the teacher gave homework, and you'll be a good student. The other thing about our culture is that we have something that is a bit of a loan phobia, as they call it. We don't like several persons come and say, Mr. First, I don't like loans at all. And I said, well, you're in a hard place. You're in a hard place for true, because you don't have money. You need to grow the business, but the business ain't gonna grow by itself. This ain't like a tree that you put outside and wait for it to bear fruit. So you gotta borrow money. And so the best way is to look at it, is to think of it, is to get over this phobia. Why does this phobia exist? So business loans can be strategic. The reason for business loans is what you gotta focus on. What do you use it for? Use it properly. Do not use loans to finance depreciating assets. So as I said, a car is not really an investment. So you decide, all right, you're going to take out a loan to buy a car. Bear in mind, you got to find money to finance this car, because you got to put gas in it, you got to pay the insurance, you got to repair it for anything that goes wrong, and you still got to pay the loan. Everything in there doesn't suggest that you're making any money on this car. Therefore, it is a depreciating asset. If you could afford it, yes, you do that. And by afford it, I mean your job allows you to go and pay for that car and cover the loan and any incidentals that might pop up. But in terms of business, we don't like to do depreciating assets, because at the end, I can't sell it for anything. A car is a little different because I can sell it immediately if you fail to pay. But in terms of, let's say, for instance, a bad depreciating asset would be, let's say, a chair. Yeah, you're not gonna get much money for the same chair in a year time. People will say, well, all right, you buy that chair for $250, I can give you $50 for it. You understand? So it is a waste in that sense. But using loans wisely to expand the business. And that is only going to be done by going back, as you said, to keep wise financial statements and make sure that what you're going to do is going to earn you more money. Avoid cash flow management problems. So you may have the money, and this is something that the wealthy persons do generally around the place, Warren Buffett and so on. Yes, I have the money, but I am not going to spend my money when I could borrow your money and pay it back. So because what happened is, let's use a simple example. I have $30,000 on my account, but if I buy that car, I will have $0 on my account, because the car costs $30,000. What I will do is go to the bank and borrow $30,000. So now I have $60,000 worth of assets, cash as well as the car. I will take my time and pay back the loan for the car, and I still have my cash, because what will happen is that I can use that same $30,000 to maintain the car now. If I didn't do that, what will happen is I have to go and scrunch and find different ways every so often to put gas in the car, to change the tire, to this, that, and the next, and so on, right? So avoid cash flow problems is one reason for taking out loans. Another one is the good options for equity investment. So say, for instance, you say, well, all right, boy, I get a good opportunity here, boy. That house there, the old lady said to me, well, she going to stay in the senior citizen home, and she wants to sell off the house. But you look at the house and she can sell it for $100,000, and you could fix it up and get it for $250,000. So that is borrowing money to make money that in terms of equity investment. Then there's business loans that can offer a tax benefit. And you talk to the accountant to find out how to get that done, because that's a little bit more technical for some people. So I won't get into a whole example of that there right now. And then the other aspect is simply to build good credit. It isn't so much an issue yet in Barbados, But in bigger countries like Europe and the US, you sometimes what you do is just take loans to build credit. You don't need the loan, but you just take the loan. So you get the credit card, you get your phone bill. A phone bill is a bill phone is tend to help build good credit because you're paying that bill every month. You say, well, look, I got $100,000 in bank. You know, the car only costs $50,000, but I can borrow the $50,000, pay it back because it can make my credit look good. So you build a good credit. And the reason for building good credit is that it allows you to get loans later on cheaper. That's the other thing. There's two things that happen. It allows you to get the loan, but also to get it cheaper because people check your credit rating to see how much risk you are at lending, and they charge you the loan accordingly. So if I know that you might not give me back my $20, I can tell you, well, listen, you gotta pay me interest, $40, you gotta pay me back. So make sure that you pay me back. If it's somebody you know that you can get back your money, well, look, go on, they give back you $20 tomorrow. But that's easy because that person has good credit. And then some loans are flexible. I'm not certain, but you generally can speak to the loans officer or the loans account manager when anytime you have challenges. The credit union may have a similar facility, but I know like Fund Access especially would have people that you speak to that can say, well, look, I know that you borrow the money for farming, but what happens is that the lettuce not gonna yield anytime soon. So could I start paying back, let's say 2 weeks after the lettuce has grown? So those are different things in terms of flexible options that allows you to borrow money that you don't got to pay back straight afterwards and so on. That's one of the good things. And so once you understand these things, it allows you to be a little less panicky when it comes to borrowing money, because you know that you can say, well, I borrowed the money for a reason. So to avoid the phobia, you understand the reason for borrowing money. All right. Now, we would have mentioned at the beginning some documentation that are necessary for loans. Often the admin part is the trickiest part of holding up loans. Make sure you got your national ID. I'm appalled that in 2024 that some people don't have a national identification card. As soon as you get 18 years old or what, make sure you got a Thomas number. I should have included an NS number there as well. Those two things are important. Ensure that if you do articles of incorporation, in other words, the business that you have is incorporated, it might just be business registration. In this case, that's 3 documents because people need to know that you're legal, basically. Personal and business bank statements. The reason for both is that generally we want to know what you're doing. So if the bank account got $100,000 and the personal account got $0, that's a flag because something fishy here. It means that all the money is going to business and all the money is go back out. So you want to see both, and so it's a little intrusive, people getting all your business and so on, but it's you that want my money that I saved there for other people. Then there's the personal and business income tax returns. Generally, sometimes that comes into play. Everything here is not always necessary. Different institutions require different things, but these are generally things that you should have a record of. And while I'm here to, what I want to urge people to do is as long as you turn 18, I don't even want to say get into business, as long as you turn 18, 16, ensure that you have all of your legal documents stored safely. Your mother should not have your passport at 25. You should be able to keep that. You understand? It's not, it shows a lack of maturity a bit. It's fine if she keeps it, yes, because y'all have a central place for stuff. But in terms of she keeping it because you can't manage these things, you gotta do better and keep the stuff in a safe place. Balance sheet and income sheet, we spoke about those things, the profit and loss. Those things need to be recorded. People don't like to do it, but again, do a little bit of research, check out on the app. It's very, very easy. Google app for keeping records, and you're gonna find at least 5 options. All you gotta do is say, well, look, Valerie, we had a presentation, so we speak to Gregory, what's those apps again? And the easiest one is the Wave accounting. I think Zoho is for the region. Same company, Zoho, and then there is always QuickBooks. QuickBooks is not difficult to learn, and it is one of the more preferred options for accounting people. You ensure you have your financials in terms of projected. If you use QuickBooks, it allows you to do a lot of financial statements in terms of projections and so on. Any licenses that you need, you should have stored. Just go down the road by someplace and get laminated or something. Ensure that somebody don't say, "Oh, I left your window open and you rain wet it and all kind of thing like that." Don't do them things, man. And then any commercial leases that you may be involved in, renting properties and what's not, make sure you have your documentation. Nothing worse than you owing people just because you refuse to keep records. All right. So those are the things that generally you should keep maintained along the way. It's not for loans here, but obviously in terms of was it business licenses, that will fall under that category. Is also any things that show that you are able to do what you're doing. Say, for instance, you're an accountant, you tend to have to pay a license every year or something of that sort to say you're good to practice, a lawyer, doctors, those people. So all those things will come in there as well. All right. So I've put together a good set of entrepreneurs that build brands. And you see a lot of them here, you recognize a lot of them here. Well, Kia Shepherd now is Drew Free. I got to change that one. Forgot to change that one. But KFC, Shafet, Alibaba, all these are brands that entrepreneurs would have created over the years. And so I do this as a sign of hope for people to say, well, I can build that brand too. Because they notice that a lot of these logos are not great whole big logos that were created. Some of these logos change over time. Some of these companies sold. Sagicor is a new one. Different things like that. Simpson Motors even changed recently. All right. So those are the things, and many of you can recognize them, both local as well as international. So that brings you to the end of the presentation. I hope I have not bored you too much, but that's in essence the whole aspect of loans and why is it how you can use them in a beneficial manner. All right. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much, Gregory. Just wanted to remind everybody again, if you have questions, you can raise your hand. And you can unmute yourself and ask your question directly. If you're a little bit shyer and you still have a burning question, you can type it into the chat. We're taking a look, so you'll be able to throw that question to Gregory on your behalf. While we're waiting to get people warmed up to the idea of, because you shared a lot of information, I actually made a few notes for myself, and I thought, well, in terms of some of the things that you said that I think would be useful to get some more, more detail or elaboration on. Now, I remember both you and Marie had mentioned this, the importance or the value in actually formally registering your business, because while we know from our experience that we actually have a lot of businesses who, either maybe, we call it a side hustle, so you have your main job, your bread and butter, and then you start something small on the side, and you don't necessarily think of it in the formal way that I guess large some business that's larger, and that you think probably there's more value in registering. But why should a small person with a side hustle look to register their business? What are the benefits for them doing so, other than making it easier for them to get financing?
No, there's a tricky one, because it depends on the purpose for you doing this side hustle. Mm-hmm. There are tax implications there as well. Most people do not declare that extra income. Mm-hmm. but let's look at what it would prevent. One, you register the business, that means you're credible. Two, you're less likely to be legally pursued for being fraudulent. People would say, well, all right, he didn't look like he do good work, but at least he registered the business, so probably they know what's going on, right? At least you can track that person as well. The other benefits is that, suppose though, our prime minister says, well, look, I see Valerie walking around making a lot more money than she's worked for, you know. I ain't gonna speak to BRA about this here. If you were registered and you would be compliant, you'll be able to say, well, no, I'm Madam Prime Minister. I quite clear. Here's my registration documents. Here's my, cause you gotta get a tax certificate as well for that. And so that's the benefit as well. So you avoid any potential conflict where those things are concerned as well. As I said, it's tricky because some persons are running businesses that don't make money and they may owe taxes that they don't declare. So it becomes fairly tricky. There's no problem doing a little hobby, you make a couple $100. Yeah, nobody interested. But as soon as it starts to get like thousands and so on, you gotta be mindful that you might be open to exposure. But the benefits are along that line: legal, compliant. It also gives you credibility in terms of customers as well. So the customer, you look very much more professional to say that, hey, I am BYBT, as opposed to Valerie trying a thing. You understand? Or sorry, I should say Gregory. Let me not pick on anybody.
That's okay. Feel free.
Yeah, it looks
a
a lot better. Right.
Yeah.
It looks a lot better to say, hey, this person looks like they know what they're doing because they're registered, they're professional, and they're gonna give me a good service, and it helps you to build more customers in that side hustle. So there's that as well. And more people will do business with you, obviously, because the other side of it is not just you are exposed, but if I do business with you and you have a registered business, I am less exposed than if I say, well, I don't know if Gregory ain't registered our business. Well, what he doing? I can't do business with him because I might put myself in problems because I might use the product that he has, and I can't find him tomorrow. You understand?
Thank you very much for that, Gregory. And actually, one point I want to note though, because Affinity Plus Credit Union recognizing that, we do have the situation where, people do start these site businesses and, they're not fully, I guess, mobilized or ready to formally register it. But recognizing, as both you and Marie had said earlier, that it's important to really keep your business account separate from your personal accounts, even if it's not like formally registered. So we actually have a share account. We call it our Smart Entrepreneurs account. That if you're not a formal business, a registered business, you can actually come into the credit union and open that particular type of account to allow you to then separate, and to track your business expenses from your personal expenses. So just wanted to let people know that that's something that we created out of the need for, the very same reason where, while it was important, people, there weren't very many options for persons to separate that money. And if you set up a business account, we do require, very specific documentation to show that you're a business. So the S6 just gives you a nice kind of in between until you're ready, I guess, to go the full gamut.
Barbados also has a little bit of a facility for it too, whereby you can register as self-employed in the meantime. There's a little bit of that. But once you're working as well as doing a side thing, you might go seek advice through the BRA and NAS.
Helps do it. Thank you. We actually have a couple questions from the floor that I can see. So let me just see if we can field those to you quickly. Assuming they're directed to you. So we have a question from Sergio Scantlebury. He's saying, as a young entrepreneur, he's looking to get into landscaping, so he needs a truck. And he's asking, so do you think if I save my money and then borrow a loan and then pay off the loan fast, because already has the money so that he could build good credit, or should he put down a down payment and borrow the loan because the truck would be an investment? Is that
Right.
clear?
So in that case, yes, the truck will be an investment. Now, I can't tell you offhand if you should or should not, because I don't know the amount of profit he's making on the landscaping business. But yes, you could take a loan, a partial loan, or what you can do is get a vehicle loan. And well, I see you have a loan calculator on your website. They can visit, and if you can decide how much you will deposit. So if they ask you for 10%, you can say, well, I can deposit 30 or 40% and then keep the rest depending. So have a discussion with the loans officer to see what is best suited for you and that arrangement. But if it's probably best not to just get rid of all the cash to buy the truck though.
Correct. To your point earlier about, saving some of your own money for other things that might come down the chute. So it's not a bad, they're good loans to be had.
Right.
Where you pay a little extra, but you give yourself more of a cushion
Right.
for any future eventualities. I actually thought it was a question, but I see Yannicka Moore, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She was giving Sergio some feedback. So thank you very much for being a good participant and engaging in a discussion with your fellow attendees. Gregory, another question I had for you as it relates to market analysis. When you were indicating that, when you have entrepreneurs come into your organization, one of the things you ask them to do is a market analysis. And one of the things that occurred to me, because you did mention that some people feel they don't have competitors, and maybe sometimes what it is that there are limited competitors in the marketplace. So in terms of the market analysis, should you don't be looking at both direct and indirect competition then? Because if you're not seeing
look at it this way. Those products that can substitute you are your competitors. So you may be selling water, but there's a juice stand or a snorkel can down the road. They may be your competitors. And one of the reasons why I said what I said earlier is because in Barbados, you can't sit and Google a lot of stuff in terms of search on the internet. So you almost have to go, let's say, search Instagram, search the neighborhood. Does anyone around the place do, for instance, Sergio does landscaping? He will probably not be able to find the 10 landscapers that are close to around him unless he goes around and find them physically or ask people about them or something of that sort. So it's important to understand because and it's not difficult. It's just it takes a bit of brow sweat, because what you can do in your prospecting and you're trying to hunt customers for yourself, you can ask other people if there's a landscape, if they have any who did their lawn before or anything of that sort. That would allow you to know, well, or there's a competitor in the area. So those the different things that you have to do. But a lot of the times you're not able to just sit at the computer and say, well, let me search and see how many trucking businesses are around. Because even selling cars nowadays, there are hundreds of people selling cars.
Well, thank you for that guidance, Gregory.
Yeah.
I see another question on the floor from China Lewis, and she's saying that she's in the process of compiling a business plan for her business idea, and she knows that she needs funding. Who can she contact to guide her in that particular area? Well, I guess I could take part one. Certainly China, if you are Affinity Plus, as Marie has said, has several business loan options for individuals. And we also have personal loan options because I think Greg, we would have mentioned it before, because you do have some entrepreneurs who opt to maybe go down the personal loan fund, especially if they have another source of income that they can use to guarantee that they're going to pay back the loan. But but Greggy would have also mentioned that there are there are additional funding options in the marketplace for businesses, that kind of fit different categories. So Greg, I'll hand one over to you so you can maybe get some guidance that as well.
Right. So a little bit objectively, you can negotiate interest rates with Affinity Plus depending on what their rates are. But there's also fund access. There's, depending on how much money you want as well, there is trust loans that would lend $5,000 at a time. You have to pay that back first, and then you get access to $10,000. And then pay back that, and you get access to 15. That would have come out when this government took over power. That's two options. I know online there is an option for carry lend without advertising people generally. That's another option. They primarily operate online. Those are the three options that are there. Other than that, there are mostly other Affinity Plus competitors in terms of financial institutions, banks, and credit unions.
You don't mention any of those, no?
Well, they're there, so.
I was saying tongue in cheek. I think it was Shakira had her hand up for a question. I know, Shakira, you still want to ask your question? So the hand went
Hi,
up.
good night.
Oh, good. Go
Hi.
ahead.
So the question was kind of cleared up a bit because I was just trying to make sure I understand 100%. So BYBT is the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme rebranded,
No.
correct? Okay. So
Youth
this is
entrepreneurship,
different.
Youth entrepreneurship scheme is yes, and that still exists. That's a government organization.
Okay, because it was mentioned it was something that was rebranded. I assume it probably was Affinity Plus. So when you
Right.
mentioned in terms of getting the business plans done and just getting assistance with those type of documents, who do we go to exactly? Do we speak to someone at Affinity Plus?
But I'm not. You do business planning at Affinity Plus, Valerie?
No. So
All right.
Shakira, well, first let me clarify two things. So as it relates to the rebranding, BYBT was formerly known as the Barbados Youth and Business Trust, but they rebranded this year, so they're now just BYBT. So even though the acronym, I guess, still represents the original organization, they changed their name to the acronym because they now represent a wider group of entrepreneurs. So they don't just focus on just youth. Correct, Gregory?
Right, correct.
Right.
So they had their go ahead.
Right. So I was going to say, so they are an NGO, so they're a non-governmental organization. And so there are, I guess, another business advisory group in addition to YES, as Gregory rightly said, that YES is actually run by the government. It's a component of, I think it's the Ministry of Youth.
Yeah, youth, sports, and culture, whatever it is, yeah.
So BYBT has, because they're NGO and they're vested in helping entrepreneurs succeed, they put a lot of time and energy, and they work with different partners like the American Embassy and different, organizations, both locally and internationally, to develop and conceptualize working programs for entrepreneurs so that entrepreneurs can get like practical exposure to things that can help their business succeed. But they also have a team that will help you, because that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask. But you can, so you could be maybe an established entrepreneur, maybe been around for 4 or 5 years. You could still go to BYBT, but their team to kind of help you refine and I guess, make changes within your business to become more efficient. Again, like we said, to put those structures in place that can help you position yourself so that investors or finance companies or other options that might be there for you can, will have more credence to be able to invest in you financially by giving you a loan or giving you startup capital or anything that you might need. So that is the that's the whole thrust behind BYBT. China, I'm going to ask you. I see your hand, China. I'm going to ask you. Give me 2 seconds because I see that Latoya had actually posed a question in the chat. But before I do that, Shakira, have we answered your question fully, or is there?
Yes, please. Thank you for clearing that up. I just had one other question in terms of the business account. Is it similar to CIBC's business account? I'm asking because I have a website. Unfortunately, I cannot accept payment, so I have to go through a gateway. So I'm just wondering how functional the business account is at Affinity Plus. Like, is it a wise move, or is it just a matter of just having money there separate from a personal account?
currently it is really to have your business money separate from your personal account. So the account does not facilitate persons being able to, you know, or you using that account to kind of, let me make sure I don't confuse you any further. So you can set up the account, you can have persons deposit money to that account if they're paying you for services, but it does not work, for example, like the First Pay platform. So it does not have a payment portal in front of it. So in order for persons to send you the money, you would just be doing like, I guess, you know, like an online banking transfer to your business account. So that's how people use it. That being said, we are actually looking at relationships with other providers to see if we can create, you know, portals, payment portals for small businesses in particular, so that they have additional options to get the money from their customer into their account. So China, again, I'm still seeing you, and I'm going to quickly ask the question that Latoya had posed here, and that was, is applying for working capital or net working capital a bad idea? And then once Gregory answers that question, or Marie, if she chooses to, we will go to China. So thank you for your patience. Go ahead, Gregory.
Right. No, it is not a bad idea, but as I would have pointed out in one of the slides in points, is that you have to ensure that when you're borrowing the money, it leads to a profitable position. All right. So in order for me to fully answer that question, it is not a bad idea. It is an okay idea, but you have to do an assessment of your finances first to see how much you need and if it will lead to you being a profitable business. But generally, no, it's not a bad idea.
Thank you very much for that, Gregory. China, you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Yes, please. Thank you for allowing me to answer. I just wanted to, I understand that you answered my question, but I kind of wanted to clarify a few things. So I understand that I can work or get more information from Affinity Plus. So I have a business plan. I understood the 3 different types of loans he would have stated, Gregory, sorry, would have stated. However, the business plan / business idea would require larger than 5,000 at a time, or, you know, using personal funds. And this plan has projected finances, like projected profits that would be made within a certain time frame. I have done these calculations. And also, as he discussed previously, how your business would need a business account to be connected to the business plan. Sorry if I'm not explaining it as well. So I just wanted to know exactly who I can like send an email to like further clarify a few things, get started, because I'm ready to get started and discuss all this information with.
You finished? Sorry?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Right. Once you're ready, Valerie is right there. Just make contact with her.
Yeah,
and you can, yeah.
Because actually, interesting enough that Gregory said that, but you know, we're very vested in making sure that people are positioned to succeed from the start. So give or take that, and then congratulations on really kind of putting some energy and effort in terms of, you know, looking at the business that you want to form, and, you know, starting to put detail behind that business that can help guide persons who are assessing you. And so you have 2 options. As I was saying, you could talk to the team at BYBT, show them what you have put together, because, you know, it sounds like you're a new entrepreneur, so they can guide you in terms of if there's anything else that you may want to consider including based on what you've put together. And then you can come chat with us, or you can certainly just come on over and chat with one of our relationship officers. I'm going to ask our market assistant, Adarian, just to drop in the chat the loans email address. And in fact, you know, we're also recently starting a loan appointment system. So what we can also do, China, is if you want to private message any of us and we can get your contact details, we can certainly get some information from you so we can get that appointment set in place for you to come and speak to somebody who can look at your detail and give further guidance. Marie,
Yes,
are you?
thank you so much.
You are most welcome. Marie, are you still on the call? Because Marie had to disappear with apologies, but she was to come back, but I'm not sure she was able to get back on the call, because she's the chief operations officer, and her team is the one that would be positioned to, you know, give you more detailed in terms of the process. But as I said, we've got the email address there. Once you private message one of us, we're going to make sure that we have somebody chat with you.
I'm sorry, Valerie, I'm on the call, but I had to leave the office because it was getting late.
Yeah, so
I'm actually in transit, but what was the question?
No, because Miss China actually is a new entrepreneur, and she said she's put together a business plan, and she sounds like she's put together business projections and financial projections, and she wants to kind of potentially access a loan. So I was just telling her that she can send our information to loans@affinityplusbb.com, and we can have one of the team members reach out to her, maybe one of the relationship officers, to discuss. So I don't know if there was anything that you may have wanted to add there.
Yes, no problem. Once she has the business plan, she can also send her ID, proof of address, business documentations, as well as the business plans with the financials, the projection. Is this a new business, or is this an existing business that you want capital for?
It's a new business.
It is a new business. And do you have a way for the first 6 months of financing the loan, or do you have another job, or is this just will be the business alone, or will it be first for the first couple months funded by a salary, or is it a case where it is a new business and we are giving you funds for this new business venture?
It would be there's no salary. It would be a new business that you're funding me for the new business.
Okay. I think Gregory could back me up here for this kind of venture. I mean, we'll look at it though. We are not going to discount it. We are going to look at it. But what we do at Affinity is that we will look at it and then direct you to who we think is better suited to handle those types of financing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we will put you on the right path. But
Right,
usually,
yeah,
like you will have said, usually fund access.
Yeah.
And those places who will more finance new entrepreneurs.
Yes, once it is a pure startup, and
Correct.
as you would fund access is probably the best place to start. If otherwise, as you can try Infinity Plus if you have a different option.
Options. So to be clear,
Yeah.
if right now you do not have, if for example, right now the loan payment, and I just like to be very frank and upfront, if the loan payment is going to be coming from the business, and when you start a business, it doesn't mean that you're going to generate revenue initially. There are persons who are employed, but they want to start a business, so they will use the fund from their salary to finance the loan until the business gets on its feet. But if it is a case where you're starting a new business and you don't have any means of income coming in for the first couple months, fund access would be the better option.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Maureen.
No problem.
I am very conscious that we are actually over our advertised time, and so I want to make sure that I don't see any additional questions or comments that we get everybody who so wonderfully decided to participate. We don't hold you longer than we need to. So I really do thank and value everybody who stayed on to listen to the questions and hopefully, benefit from all the information that's been shared today. I want to just quickly, because I did promise you that I asked you to listen intently. And I did promise that, we kind of award a couple of prizes this evening. So I want to just take a moment to just quickly ask those questions, and we'll see. And Darren, if you can listen out for me in terms of who's raising their hand or typing really fast to win one of these prizes. So first prize, and to just remind, we have two $50 credit union cash vouchers and branded gift packs to give away. So our first question is, which anniversary will Affinity Plus Credit Union celebrate this year? And that's hopefully a very easy question if you were listening to me at the start. Any takers? Wait, nobody remembers? I'm just... Anybody remembers what anniversary Affinity Plus Credit Union will be celebrating this year? Hey, thank you, Aisha, for giving me hope and faith. So Aisha was the first person. She's absolutely correct. I see Jai also attempted to answer. She said 40, but to clarify, we are actually 40 years old right now, and we're celebrating our 41st anniversary in July, making Aisha Skeet the winner. So Aisha, if you can private message us your details so we can make arrangements to get your prize package. And last but by no means least, I'm hoping this is not a hard one, but Gregory has shared a quote about failing that I quite liked when he, at some point during his presentation. Can anybody remember what that quote was for the second prize? So you can either unmute an answer, or you can type an answer. Thank you, Stacia Archer Clark. Also, thank you, Sharice, for participating. Yes, if you fail to, well, I mean, you worded it a little differently, but I got you. So if you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And Gregory's words were, fail to plan, you plan to fail. So congratulations, Stacia Archer Clark. So again, same thing to you. If you can private message us your details so we can make arrangements to get that price package to you. So at this point in the evening, it's just for us to just say thanks formally to our speakers this evening. So I'm going to ask Darian Broom, who's the marketing assistant at the credit union, just to help us close the evening with formal vote of thanks. So Darian, you can take over.
Thanks, Valerie. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Affinity Plus Credit Union, I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to all of you for attending this evening's webinar on accessing financing for your small business successfully. We hope that you found this session both informative and inspiring. First and foremost, a special thank you to our featured guest speaker, Mr. Gregory Fergusson from BYBT. Your invaluable insights on structuring and planning to make a business credit ready were enlightening. And additionally, thank you for sharing information on entrepreneurship generally and the opportunities available through the BYBT. It was highly appreciated. Also, a special thank you to our COO, Marie Theodore. Thank you for sharing the detailed requirements for securing a business loan and also highlighting other opportunities for business owners at Affinity Plus Credit Union. Your expertise was truly appreciated. And also a shout out to the marketing manager, Valerie Ho. Thank you for serving as an excellent MC this evening and also leading and coordinating the session. Again, thank you to all the attendees for participating and attending the session. We hope to see you at future sessions hosted by Affinity Plus Credit Union. We invite you to follow us on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. Our handle, all of our handles on all channels is at Affinity Plus BB. And you can also learn more about the brand and our products and services at affinityplusbb.com. Again, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Let me extend my sincere thanks to you again, Darren, for helping us to facilitate today's session. And Darren did it all pretty much for me. So there's nothing left to be said other than, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again and have a great evening. So again, Aisha and Stacy, make sure I got that right, Stacy. If you can make sure that you just drop your details to us directly so we can get hold of you. But thank you again, everybody, for being such great participants. So as I love to say, because most people hopefully are still at home, but get home safely. That's a little chuckle. And we look forward, as Darian said, to seeing you at future sessions.